Hey everyone, I'm not dead. Welcome back to another video. My name's Cookie Blitz. As you might know, make sure to subscribe, like the video. I want to apologize for there being a little amount of content out there. If you haven't seen my community posts, I sent my computer into my manufacturers, and that whole process took about a month, and then I had to set it up, and maybe about like a week and a half ago I got it. So I've been working on two videos. One of my videos is on Left 4 Dead, which should be coming out soon, and the other video is this one, which is unscripted. As you can see, I'm staring right at the camera while talking the entire time, so I might mess up my talking a little bit, so you're gonna have to give me some leeway. But anyways, without further ado, let's talk about Elden Ring DLC. Now, there's multiple things I want to talk about, but the first thing is my experience, and then later on we'll get into the community reaction and streamers, and particularly one streamer. But my take on the DLC is it's actually extremely fun. I have some gameplay up as you're watching this video. You're gonna see me going about with my character, kind of just fiddling around, doing whatever I want, but it's a very, very good DLC. It has mixed reviews on Steam because, you know, people are complaining. You might have seen the Moist Critical video talking about it, but, you know, there are some very reasonable complaints, and I'll get into that. But a lot of people, I feel like, are mistaken. You see, to get into the DLC, you have to be able to beat multiple bosses. You have to be a majority through the game, okay? And with my personal experience, I'll give you this, right? So when I new game plussed on my main character, I killed the white mask guy. Now, for people who play the game, they know why this was a big fuck up. The reason is because to get to Mohg's palace, you have to get the Lord of Blood's exaltation medallion thing from that dude, from the White Mask quest line. But I killed the dude, so I couldn't do the quest line. So what I ended up having to do, which a lot of players also did, was you have to go to the consecrated snowfield like way later in the game, and then you have to access the Mohg teleporter all the way up in some random snow location, and then that'll teleport you to Mohg's palace. So that's how I ended up getting to the DLC. And then you also have to beat Radahn, and I would say I'm about maybe like less than halfway through the DLC. But I've explored a lot of the areas, I've done a lot of secrets, I've beat a lot of bosses, but my personal gripes with the DLC is mainly like two things. The first thing is the camera. Now, a lot of Elden Ring bosses, even in the base game, have had this issue with the camera. And what do I mean by camera, right? So when you're playing Elden Ring, there's the lock-on ability, right? But the lock-on ability, what it does is it forces your camera to look at whatever entity you're locking on. Now, for normal enemies, this isn't really a problem because they're small. But what happens with bosses, especially big bosses, is the camera really doesn't know what to do some of the times, and very few times does it actually zoom out for a lot of the bigger bosses. Of course, spoilers, but one of the bosses that you can fight at the northern part of the map, the Tree, I don't know how to say it, but Tree Avatar. It's like a reincarnation of the Tree, but his boss fight is particularly bad with the camera because the boss is so gigantic, and you can't look straight up in Elden Ring. It stops you at like a certain like 170 degrees up, but you can't look up all the way. And the hitbox, well, that's the second thing, the hitbox, but the actual character model for the boss is so gigantic that it's hard to even see what they're doing. And this is a problem I also noticed with the lion boss, that the camera would start to freak out because the boss itself does so much movement that as he's jumping around the field, the camera just doesn't know what to do. And I noticed it did zoom out a little bit during certain parts of the fight, but most of the time it kind of just, I don't know. Like, the thing with the camera as well is that it also changes the direction of your movement, right? So if I push my stick forward and my camera is locked onto my enemy in front of me, I'm gonna move forward, right? But as the enemy moves like out of the way, that forward motion on my character becomes a sideways or maybe even a backwards, depending on how fast the camera moves from the earlier position to the later position. So I could see that being one very, very big issue that I feel like they should correct, or do some sort of like camera smoothing technique where the camera doesn't really zip around or something. I could see them fixing it. But the second issue I mentioned earlier was hitboxes. Now, Elden Ring has sort of always had a hitbox problem, sort of like the camera problem. But for some of the bosses, again, the scatter tree guy, particularly bad. The scatter tree guy has this one action where he brings his arm down, and he has sort of like an elbow. Even if you're below that elbow part, when his hand comes down, like you're over here, right? The hand comes down, you're clear of his actual hand, but you still get hit. And it's pretty bad because the bosses do a lot of damage. And you also, I fought this dude with 9 scattered tree fragments, so I was pretty prepared. But he still ended up being a little bit of a tough fight. It took me 5 or 6 hours with my friend, and we summoned each other. And we went ahead and beat him. But he took a very, very long time to beat him. A lot of people are talking about how Elden Ring is like, or the DLC at least, is super hard. It's too hard to be enjoyable, and I'm particularly talking about a streamer called Asmongold. And to that I say, how? Because to get to the DLC you have to beat bosses, which means that the DLC in itself has already prepared you before you got to the DLC. In an essence, I guess the game prepared you. But what I'm saying is, if you didn't expect the challenge, I don't think you know FromSoft games, because they saw how everyone beat the base game, so they damn sure made it that everyone was gonna struggle on the DLC. And listen, the DLC has been out for a couple days. Literally, at the time of me recording this, it's the 24th. It came out literally 3-4 days ago. And you expect to have beat the DLC and have had to, expect zero problems with it? That's insane to me. People need time to fight things. People need time to get good. It took me and my friend, like I said, 5 to 6 hours to train and kill that one scatter tree guy, that scatter tree avatar. And we still had to basically rely on RNG because we couldn't dodge some of his moves. Like, we just couldn't get the timing down. But it takes time, it takes dedication, and these streamers that are like, I could do it, but I'm not going to, I feel where they're coming from, because how I personally play Elden Ring is whatever. I use colossal swords, I use great swords, I use magic, I summon. I basically do whatever I want at the time. So if I'm feeling magic, I'll use magic. If I'm feeling, colossal sword, I'll use colossal sword. But the biggest thing is that these people, I don't really know. These people have played Elden Ring, but they also forget that they played Elden Ring because they're complaining about the DLC being too hard when Elden Ring itself was originally complained to be too hard. And these people defended it, so I don't know really where they're coming from. Because I'm an average gamer. Elden Ring was my first Souls game, and I have played Dark Souls 1. But I just really don't get where people are coming from when they start complaining about the DLC being way too hard, because honestly it really isn't. If I can beat it with using whatever, surely you can beat it. And the DLC has a lot of bosses that are immune to certain things, so it's even harder in that regard. But I just wanted to give my opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Cookie Blitz. Make sure to like, subscribe. This is sort of just a spewing out video. You know what it is. I misspoke a lot during this video, but again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe, like. I'm going to be making a more professional video, but I just wanted to get something out soon because, most of my time has been taken up by the Elden Ring DLC. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.